We are excited to have Yvonne Finnerty with us today. You may remember her from Nanny 911.
Nanny, nanny, boo, boo.
If we're just meeting, I'm Candy of Experienced Nanny. I have 30 years background in nannying and childcare with families around the world. On this channel, I share my advice, tips and experiences in childcare, as well as information from and by industry leaders. If this is something that interests you, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing the bell. This way you'll be notified when I upload new content. Yvonne Finnerty was born and educated in London, England. She has been in childcare for over 30 years. In 2005, she was selected to be one of the stars of a television show called Nanny 911. This was a show syndicated in over 30 countries. For 7 years, Yvonne wrote a parenting column for a leading Boston newspaper, as well as appearing as a childcare expert on Fox and NECN, answering questions sent in by viewers. For the past 14 years, Yvonne has been employed by a high net worth family in Boston, and she is looking to relocate back to the UK to be with her family. Hi, Yvonne. Thank you for joining us today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became a nanny?
I will. When I was at school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I, thank heavens, met a teacher who was in social studies who said, I know you'd be really good working with children. So she got me at 16 into a nursery school where I was encouraged to take the NNEB. Shall I explain what that is?
Yes, please.
The National Nursery Education Board exams, which was the creme de la creme of nanny certifications back in the day, and now it's cachet. Just to let you know what's going on. And really, I found that working with children was my forte. I worked in the corporate field for a while, and I didn't like working with adults. So I decided, just purely by chance, I had a phone call from somebody that was looking for a nanny over here in Boston, and I decided to go for it. And I went, and there was no looking back. I've been in Boston ever since. And it's actually not quite true. I don't necessarily want to relocate back to the UK. I would like to be able to spend as much time there as possible.
Fantastic. Now, you did mention your NNEB, which is the same training I have. How do you feel that helped you or hindered you in your career?
I think it gave me a really solid foundation for my career, but I also believe that you can't beat hands-on. And luckily, I had spent a year in a nursery school, so I'd been hands-on. And then I thought, you know, I'm only 18, I should really try. I'm so sorry about this. Let me turn my phone off while we're here. I really thought to myself, well, I need to go into the corporate world to realize that I don't want to do that.
Yes.
So then I went back, and when I came over here, I pretty much did not like it, first of all. I came over on my own. I didn't know anybody. The lady I worked for, unbeknownst to me, was paying me $1 an hour. I had no
$1 an hour?
Yeah, I used to do the cleaning as well. So I was doing 60 hours a week. And I thought, this is great, but not having any contacts or any idea how it all works in the US, it's a lesson learned. I learned a lot in every family I've actually been with. So, and now, you know, I would say that I'm a really good nanny, and I've learned so much now that I would be a better nanny now than I was then.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I completely understand what you're saying, because I know so much more now than I did when I first started nannying.
The only problem is I don't have the energy now to be running after a 2- and 4-year-old and 6-year-old, etc.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
I probably could find it if it was the right fit.
I'm sure you do. So why do you think it's important to keep up with childcare information when working as a nanny?
I think you've only got to follow the science. It changes so much. Just for instance, I was at a conference which was on autism, with neuroscientists from the Mind Institute. And even within that spectrum, it's changing so much. And they actually found out that the treatment they're giving to people on the spectrum, and I'm talking, well, it's so broad, you know that, there's a difference in what they should be doing between girls and boys. Wow. And they've just found this out. So again, keep up with it, keep up with the science. There's all sorts of different safety issues that you need to be aware of. And there's no sitting in the back of the car while your mum drives with no seatbelt on, you know, yep. When I was a kid, yep. Long time ago. So yeah, you have to keep up with the science.
All right. And I know you've created some courses. So can you tell us a little bit about the courses that you have created?
I will. I did, back in 2020, as we all know, the world shut down. I was actually teaching a babysitting course to people in person. Mm-hmm. And I must say it's a lot easier doing this course in person, because I also believe you do need the hands-on aspect. Right. It was also a CPR course. Okay. And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to give it a whirl, and I'm going to try and put this on a social platform, mm-hmm. which was really difficult for me because I'm really not very technical. You know, I'm more of a goofy nanny who loves to sing and dance and do all fun things. So I did, and I managed to get my first one on, which it literally is a babysitting class. And then I decided to write my perspective of a journey through childhood. Mm-hmm. So teaching a 0 to 6, I've just finished my 7 to 1-year-old course, and I'll go on from there. And I give a lot of insights that I've learned over the years, but I also do a lot about brain activity and how important it is in those first, I say 7 years, because I follow Aristotle. Mm-hmm. Give me a child until he is 7, and I'll show you the man. Yes. That's my favorite motto.
All right. And so the babysitting course, who is your target audience?
Well, really, it's for teenagers starting out in the babysitting, or anyone that's interested in an early childhood education. But it covers the real basic safety issues. I think it's a little bit more than basic, to be honest. CPR, first aid, things like that. And anyone that, you know, grandparents that haven't actually, you know, been in touch with a child since their child was a child. Right. And anyone that's interested, really. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to make it accessible for people where it wasn't so expensive that they were, you know, they couldn't afford to do it, and get the message out, because it is about safety, and it is about the best childcare and childcare provider you can be. Right.
And the journey through childcare, I know you've completed the 0 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. So who would the target audience be for that? And how long is the course? How long does it take to complete?
Again, the target audience is really anyone interested in the early years. Again, I go back to brain development. So I put a lot in that you may not necessarily learn in your typical babysitting course, etc. Mm-hmm. Sorry, how long?
Yes, how long would it take somebody to complete the 0 to 6 months?
Okay, it's 5 segments.
Okay.
It's not as in-depth as a college course per se, but that may be down the road. I'm just not sure for now. And again, as somebody that doesn't have access to a lot of funds to be able to do the early years, I mean, parents would find it fascinating. If I was pregnant and taking this course, I'd be like, wow, that's going on, you know, in between the 0 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. And again, tips and things on my next one. I haven't got it on yet for the simple reason I'm trying to place myself into the course by video. Okay. And that's the hardest part for me.
Isn't it for all of us?
Yes, it is.
And I know this is dear to your heart, but tell us about the nonverbal communication and how you got into it and why it's important.
Right. There's a couple of reasons, actually, and I have used it during my nannying career. But my brother came home from the hospital. He had cerebral palsy. So it was very, very important. I have to tell you what the scientist said to my mum this is back in the 60s. She said, he'll never be anything, he's pretty much a cabbage, which my mum said,
That's
oh
awful.
no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Good for your mum.
And he was not. He's the most intelligent person I've ever met. And one of the biggest things he taught me was empathy. But the non-verbal communication came in, and this is why I use my hands a lot, and I'm usually a bit OTT, over the top, for those of you that don't know what that means, is because I would over exaggerate. I'd use my eyes a lot. We would communicate with eyes and facial expressions. And I never learned BSL. British Sign Language or ASL, in fact, because we didn't need it.
Right.
And we had a connection that went far beyond any sort of, I don't even know how to describe it. We had a connection, and we kind of we just knew when we walked in a room, when we wanted to communicate, we could do it with our eyes, and we could be very expressive, and we would know what each other was thinking. And I've done it with families here, especially the last family, or the family I'm working for currently. We used to go to very nice restaurants, and I was teaching, I think it was about 2 at the time, facial expressions and things like that. And about how when we were at a restaurant, if I gave him the look,
the nanny look.
A nanny look. It was what my mum used to do to me too. If I gave him the look and I kind of like maybe just nodded my head or shook my head a little bit, etc., he would understand that that wasn't appropriate behavior. And he would do the same back to me as well. Like, I don't like you doing that. But we were communicating without speaking.
Right.
So it's very important.
I know I've used the nonverbal communication with my charges as well, and they just knew that if I looked at them a certain way, it was time for them to stop whatever it is what they were doing.
Absolutely. Like, I don't believe in timeout or anything like that. No. Just take away the attention. And I think kids inherently want to please you.
Yes.
And when they see your displeasure, they soon turn around, and then it's all fun and games again. And exactly. And that is how.
And I love how your charge used it with you as well. My
charge back used at you. To do that. I don't like that.
my charge used to do that to me as well, and it used to make me want to laugh.
Yes, at a dinner table, but you can't because that's what you're teaching. Yes,
right. You just, but inside you're cracking up.
But even if you have like a little half smile, yes. then it diffuses the situation. So I use humor a lot.
Yes,
humor and music and dancing and redirection. That's my whole ethos on nannying.
Fabulous. So I know everybody's going to be wanting to know about Nanny 911. So could you give us a few snippets?
Yes, I could. Oh, one of the biggest things about Nanny 911 was we were there for 100 hours.
Wow.
And basically,
for each family.
Yes. And basically what you saw was 45 minutes. And another thing that I didn't particularly care for about it was all the tapes were sent back to LA and they were edited there, and they had a formula. So it was, bad parents, sit down, nanny, change the behavior, all sunshine. But over that 100 hours, there was a lot more going on.
I'm sure there was.
Clearly. Some of the things I wished they'd put on the television, and when it was edited, it was kind of, I felt a bit flat because I'd actually been there. I'm still in touch with a lot of the parents.
Lovely.
Apart from one who wanted to hit me over the head with a frying pan.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, it was lovely. And not in touch with her.
Please don't.
No, that's over. But the other ones I'm still in touch with. And it was exciting, but it was a very small part of my career. Okay. And I was treated like royalty, and I had, first class everywhere. And I met some famous people. I got into a movie with The Rock
I was going to say, life after 911, did it bring you anything you wanted?
No, it was actually during 911.
Oh.
Yeah, the producer was actually English, and he thought it'd be fun if one of the nannies, and he chose me, would go on and come out, and clearly he wasn't going to choose me, so he chose the blonde young girl down the end of the line. And it works out really, it was funny. And I went to dinner with The Rock and the producer.
Very nice. I did
Very
watch
nice
that
man.
movie just because you were in it.
You did? Yeah, did you?
I did, yes.
Blink and you'll miss me. And then I just did another cameo actually with another movie with my husband's cousin about Robin Williams. So you'll see me in my full uniform in that one too.
Lovely.
I know, fancy, eh?
Fancy, fancy. All right. So if our viewers would like to know more about your courses, where can they find them?
There's an online platform called Udemy, which is UDEMY. And if you actually search for Nanny Yvonne, they're all under Nanny Yvonne, and you'll see the different courses. And please feel free to get back to me. I know they're not technically brilliant, but the content is good, and I would welcome feedback.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time today with us, Yvonne, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Candy. It's been my pleasure.